Ow. I need to stop moving this.
Hey there, lovelies. So I will just kind of chat a bit while we wait for anybody who wants to jump on to jump on. So welcome to the new Chihuahua school from sunny Dorset, although actually it's pouring with rain now. So yes, so welcome to our first live in our new setup. So yeah, we're really looking forward to getting going and getting some super information out to you. So today we are talking about crazy behavior at the front door, which is very, very typical Chihuahua behavior. Actually, let's put my glasses on because I can't really see it. There we go. Which is very, very typical Chihuahua. Now, what happens is the doorbell goes and your Chihuahuas go into a meltdown, or someone comes in through the door and they all start a lot of crazy barking and just being absolutely just a bit mad, and they just go bonkers. Now, if you've got more than one Chihuahua, you'll be very, very familiar with this because it's generally one Chihuahua that will start and then it will instantly fill the bucket of all the others. And then you've then got yourself in a really interesting Chihuahua feedback loop. So what we're going to talk about today is how we can to kind of resolve that behavior and how to help your Chihuahua learn that people coming in the front door and the doorbell ringing is just pretty much none of their business. Okay. We don't want our dogs getting absolutely having a meltdown every time someone comes in the front door. And we certainly don't want any of this. Yeah, I'm going to nip your ankle. I'm just going to nip round the back and nip your ankle. So, and you can probably hear Prince in the background really showing me up. So that's always a pleasure. Anyway, so let's think about the front door and let's start to look at it from your Chihuahua's point of view. So I've got some slides here, just a little bit of housekeeping. I do have a little bit of a stutter, a little speech impediment. So I've put together slides for this so I don't lose my track of what I'm trying to say. Okie doke. So let's think about the door from your dog's point of view. Now, if you're a member of Chihuahua School, you probably will be aware we have a whole section on doors because all dogs find doors quite exciting. They find doors, generally they cause quite a lot of anxiety. So for your dog, basically the front door is a disco. Okay, it's huge amounts of excitement, huge amounts of energy, and they kind of will respond to that as people come through the door. So it doesn't matter whether your Chihuahua is finding it exciting or whether they're finding it's creating anxiety, because the output behavior for both are really similar. So anxious behavior, excited behavior, the output can be lunging, barking. For Chihuahuas, quite often they might mark, the boys will mark, and sometimes they'll nip, they will nip, go around and nip ankles, which again is a very Chihuahua behavior. So it doesn't actually really matter whether your dog is finding it exciting or whether your dog is finding it anxiety. The actual behavior, the output behavior that you're going to get is going to look very similar. Then we add into the mix rehearsal. Okay, now rehearsal is your dog will do what they do. Okay, so a dog will do what they do every day. Now, their reasoning is, I did this yesterday, it kept me alive, so I'll do it again today. So rehearsal becomes a huge part of your dog's behavior. So any kind of noise, the more rehearsal they have, the more they're going to react to it. So any kind of noise will push up their arousal level and create this anxious behavior. And the more that they do that every day, the more that will just become a default behavior for them. Now, a lot of people try and sort the behavior out at this point, okay? And they'll try and get their dog to sit, and they'll try and get them to behave in a more acceptable way at this point. But expecting your dog to sit and be calm when this is happening is very unrealistic, okay? Because they don't have the skills yet to manage this arousal level. So you're being really unreasonable by trying to train them at this point. And you'll hear me refer to don't train in the situation quite a lot. And this, if you're trying to train your dog as your visitors come through the door. You are very much training in the situation rather than for the situation, which I will talk about a little bit more. So first of all, the first thing is not to try and train your dog at the point that this is actually happening. So as I just said, so it's training in the situation and not for it. So think of it like you're getting your dog to sit still, and you're getting them, holding them in that position for a treat. It's kind of like a starting gun for your dog, okay? Because it's like ready, steady, go. Okay, so you hold your dog, their arousal level goes up, because quite often dogs have a very uncomfortable relationship with stillness. So their arousal level will go up. And then once you stop feeding them, bang, off they go. So you can kind of see how you, by holding them there, you're kind of creating this bang behavior that the minute you release them, they're going to go and interact with the visitors or with the doorbell or whatever's going on. So we really want to avoid working in the situation. I cannot stress that enough. We always work for the situation. We help our dog build the skills that they need for the situation. So one of the things that happens is, again, so talking about the starting gun, one of the things that actually happens for your dog is when you're holding them there, their brain is at the door. Okay, their brain is over there. Their brain is having a disco, and their brain wants to get involved in what's going over there. But they can hold that long enough to get a treat from you, and then they're going to go and charge and get involved in what's going on over there. And you're rewarding that because you're giving them a treat at that point. You are rewarding that behavior. And there's a really good chance that your dog actually thinks this is what you want them to do. You want them to kind of hold, ready, steady, go. And you want them to go at the door like that, or you want them to bark at the door like that. Okay. And we also add additional excitement in there by trying to control them in this place. So it might be get down, get down, get down, sit, 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 or holding onto their collar while they're wiggling about, or introducing gadgets as well. And all you're doing in that situation is you're adding a lot more excitement and a lot more crazy into the situation. So we don't want any of that. Okay. All of this is working in the situation, which is something we really want to come away from. So the key issues we've got at play here is rehearsal. Okay. Is rehearsal of the behavior, and very importantly, prediction of events. Okay. Dogs are extremely good at predicting what's going to happen next. So if they've rehearsed this behavior over and over, they're going to be able very easily to predict what's going to happen next. Okay. And that prediction will then also start to create arousal, depending on how they feel about it. So what's going on here is you've got rehearsal, you've got prediction of events, you've certainly got an inappropriate arousal level, and you've got training in the situation. So those are all the things that you're probably doing, but we need to put to one side, and we need to stop that happening. So next, we want to kind of create a behavior, a plan, if you will, so we can train for the situation. So like I said before, we are not going to be training when your visitors are coming in the door. We're not going to be training when your guests are arriving. We're not going to be training when the postman comes in the door. That is not the place to try and work with your dog, because all you're going to get, your dog is in a messy headspace. They're in a crazy disco headspace. And if you've got kids, for sure, you'll know that you cannot train in that place. Okay. We need a calm dog. We need a dog that we can communicate with. And if they've got their disco pants on and they're being a bit crazy, then this is not the place for us to try and teach them. So let's just get rid of that and look at this one. So here's the plan. So it's a lot quicker for me to go through than it is for you to actually action. Okay, it's easier for me to talk through, but each section of this could easily take a few days. It might even take a week. Now, the thing to think about is when you're training a dog, if something doesn't work, Okay, it's not a failure. All it is information. Now, information is telling you where your dog is in the process. It's telling you where your dog's head is. And if your dog hasn't coped with something or something hasn't worked really well, then all you need to do is just go back a step. You go back a step and you spend more time at the previous step. So if it doesn't work, don't get frustrated. Don't kind of go, oh my God, it's never going to work. This is how my dog's going to be forever. It isn't. Okay. It's just about your dog isn't there yet and you just need to go back a step. Okay. Now, decide what you want. Okay. Is really important. And one of the things I quite often say to a client, they say to me, I don't want my dog to do this. I don't want my dog to pull. I don't want my dog to jump at people. And I go, okay, what do you want them to do? What do you want your dog to do? Because people have very, very different ideas about what is right for them and what is right for their dog. And we're not trying to train a robot. We're training a dog that fits in with your household. Okay. So first of all, decide what you want. Now, generally, some level of interest is going to be expected from your dog. Something interesting has happened. But what we don't want is this craziness as they interact with it. We want a more appropriate arousal level. So this is what we want to build. It's okay for your dog to be interested because people have come through the door. But what we generally want to build with them is it's just none of my business. I might be interested, but it's none of my business. That's what we're going for. So first of all, decide what you want. Some people might boundary train. Now, boundary training is when you get your dog to go and sit on a mat when the doorbell rings or when people come in. Now, that's great, okay? But boundary training is great, but it does take a while to do. So for this program, for what I'm going to go through with you now, we're not really talking about boundary training. Some people want their dogs completely out the picture, and some people just want their dogs just to go, yeah, I can see you. Yeah, I can come and say hello, and it's no big deal. Okay. And that really is kind of what we're aiming for. So, first of all, decide what you want and what is working for you as a family and for you as a dog owner. Now, as I've said over and over again, I really do say this a lot, but I kind of find I have to. Don't work in the situation and save your training days for the days you have visitors. Do not do that because you're going to be under a stress as well. If you have a big dinner or it's Christmas or you have guests or whatever, you're really not going to want to have to try and carve some time into that to train your dog. Okay. So we don't do that. We're going to use friends and neighbors and we're going to spoof our visitors and we're going to well, there's no other word for it really. We're just going to spoof our visitors to help you practice the training stages that I'm going to go through. Now, you might want to grab a pencil and write some of this down, but the notes to this will be available underneath as well. So if you're a member of Chihuahua School, you probably will have seen this, okay? Because there is a whole module on doors and why doors cause so much excitement for a dog. Now, it's kind of obvious to us what a door is for, but for a dog, it can be slightly different. Their people come, their people go, they suddenly disappear. Strange things happen around the door, huge amounts of excitement. Shopping comes in that smells different. People come in with parcels, etc. So for a dog, doors can be very worrying. Okay. And then we can also make that worse by the doorbell rings and we rush to the door because it might be a parcel, it might be a postman, and you don't want them just to chuck it over the fence and run off or whatever. So again, we can be adding additional excitement into that. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to start to change things up around the door. Okay. So some of the things I would suggest you do is use different doors to go in and out of. Don't always have the same thing happening around the same door. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is if you've got family coming in, maybe use the gate, maybe come in around the back door if you've got one. If you've only got one entrance to your flat, then there's not really that much you can do about it. But don't come in the front door all the time in a massive kind of heated, excited rush. Now, second thing is prevent access to the doors. And we're going to talk about management a bit more. Okay. We're going to do I'm going to show you how to do some DMT around the door. So you are soothing and making the dog feel less anxious or less excited around the door. Now, very importantly is we're not making a fuss. Okay. Now, again, people really get upset about this because they come in from work and you go, you want to make a fuss of your dog? Oh, I've really missed you. Oh, I love you. Mummy loves you or whatever. And when you go, it's kind of like, oh, I'm going out. I won't be long. We all do it. Okay. Although I try really hard not to. It's, oh, mummy loves you. Bye. I'm only going to be an hour or so or anything like that. But what you're doing when you do that is you are creating anxiety as you come in and as you go. Your excitement as you come in, anxiety as you go. And this is the forerunner of separation anxiety. And separation anxiety certainly does pay into excitement around the door, which we'll talk a bit another time. But so you need to be completely neutral as you come and as you go. Okay. And when you come in the house, you're going to try and ignore your dog for about 5 minutes, which can be really difficult. Okay. Because, the dogs are going to be barking up and jumping around your feet and all that kind of stuff. Just ignore them. Okay. And another thing is don't let your dog out for a pee the minute you get in the door, because otherwise they'll start associating that with you coming in the door and you kind of create this automatic response. Wait 5 minutes before you do anything, okay? Before you greet your dog, before you pet your dog, and before you let them out for a wee, okay? And then also try not to rush to the door. Don't go zooming down to the door, again, which is hard if you're expecting something, because again, that tells your dog that this is a very exciting, interesting place to be. Okay, so what we're looking for and what we're trying to build in this training is activity around the door is none of our dog's business. Okay, I see you. Yeah, okay, I'm mildly interested. I might just have a look, but I'm actually not going to get super involved. So it's pretty much none of your business. Now, the first thing we do with this is we're looking at management, okay? Management is key in preventing rehearsal. Rehearsal is your enemy. Remember, what your dog practices every day, they will do tomorrow. What they did yesterday informs what they will do today. Because it kept them alive yesterday, it will keep them alive today, is the way they think. So, first of all, we need to think about management. Rehearsal is when their dog is practicing a really unhelpful behavior. And in this instance, that is our activity at the door. So we might use a stair gate. We have a stair gate. We don't allow them to get to the front door, mainly because our house is also more on a road than it was where we lived before, and I don't want them charging out onto the road. So we have a baby gate. You could, sorry, words not coming out again. You could use your kitchen. You could send them to the kitchen, or you could use a crate, or you could, whatever it is you're going to use. We want your dog not to have access to the doors and not be able to go charging up, interacting with that door in that crazy kind of way. And that includes dragging. I know in the UK, we get our post through the door, literally comes through the front door, lands on the mat, which I don't think happens in a lot of other countries. They have their post boxes outside. If your dog gets crazy at the door and you're in the UK, I would recommend that you put a post box on the outside of the house, again, so you're not constantly rehearsing that behavior. So there isn't that interaction with the door. Mika used to do this. You just put something through the door, and if you get hold of it before you, it'd be shreds by the time you actually got it. It's an absolute stinker for that. So again, we prevent that by having, one, no access to the door, and two, we have our post come in into a post box outside. Now, when people come in, this is how we're going to start to build our training. We're going to start using the kitchen as a place to put our dog while we build the skills we need to help them interact with our visitors. So first of all, we want to move them out of the space. And remember, we're not doing this when it's all kicking off with visitors. We're doing it with spoof visitors. So they're going to go into the kitchen and they're going to have something to do. Now that could be a lick mat, it could be a hoof, or it could be a bone to chew. Okay, it doesn't matter. Something long lasting. What we're not looking for is something that can just be gobbled up in a minute and then return to the crazy barking. So the first thing is make sure that you are ready and that you have something ready to go when the person comes through the door. So stage one is you're going to have your dog in the kitchen employed in the lick mat, hoof, or bone, and you're going to have people just come in and out of the house for a very, very short amount of time. Now, that could be just for a few seconds, it could be for a minute, doesn't matter, whatever your dog can cope with. Now, there will be no dog visitor interaction. Okay, the visitor is just going to come in and then they're going to go. Okay, and your dog is going to be employed in something. Now, if you find that your dog is at that stage can't cope with that, then that's really useful information that will help us again break this down even more, which I can explain a bit further down the line. So this is stage one, just having people come in and out the house for very, very short periods of time and your dog busy doing something. It would be a really good idea to make sure that your dog is on an indoor harness and an indoor line so that you've got control over them, but also have the door shut, have the kitchen door shut. Now, put your dog on the lead. So this is stage two. So once you've mastered stage one and you've got your dog able to be in the kitchen minding their own business, then we can move on to stage two. So we're going to put the dog on a lead. You're going to manage your visitors. Your dog is currently in the kitchen. Your visitors need to be managed. Again, remember, they are spoof visitors. You're going to sit them down on the sofa. Managing visitors is as important as managing your dog. Give your visitors something to do. Okay, give them a cup of tea, give them a biscuit, give them something to do. So again, when they see your dog, it's not always a lovely little thing because that's, again, creating that excitement and that interaction with visitors. So once your dog is cool with being in the kitchen, we're going to move the dog out of the kitchen and we're going to head towards the visitors. But we're not taking our dog up to the visitors. We're just going to move towards them, keeping the dog under threshold, and then we're going to turn them around and go back to the kitchen and put them back onto the thing that they were interested. Re-employ your dog in a low arousal activity. Again, could be a lick mat, could be a snuffle mat, doesn't matter. So they're coming off that, they see the visitor, they turn back round again, and they go back to their mat. Again, very, very important that no dog visitor interaction takes place. We are trying to teach your dog that visitors and people coming into their house are none of their business. Okay. Now, one of the reasons, if you do have visitors interacting with your dog, again, this is going to push up their arousal level. And then that excitement of that visitor coming in is going to be then paired with the front door, which we don't want, which is what we're trying to unpick. So it's really, really important that your visitors are going to be happy to ignore the dog. Okay. And this is, again, why we're working with spoof visitors rather than visitors coming in. Now, obviously, when you do have real visitors, you are going to have to manage your dog in a similar way. But hopefully, if you've done enough training prior to real visitors coming, you're not going to find that you have these issues that you're having now. Now, stage three. Okay, so we put the dog on a lead and we've put our visitors on the sofa and we've given our visitors something to do. Okay, we are going to move the dog into our visitors' space and we're going to dog park. Okay, now we're only going to do this once we've actually managed to bring our dog and turn them around and move them away from the dogs and re-employ them. So we're going to take them into the visitor space. Dog parking is about having your dog just settled at your feet, minding their own business. So again, spoof this, have this ready. Have your visitors on a lick mat, it's disgusting. Your visitors on the sofa, and maybe have a lick mat on the floor for your dog to go to, or possibly a snuffle mat. So you're going to walk into the room, you're going to settle down, and your dog is going to be on that lick mat. You're going to put your foot on the lead, and then you're going to just spend a couple of minutes, however long you feel is necessary, and then you're going to move the dog back out of that situation again and put them back in the kitchen. So you can kind of see what's happening here. You're building this training up in layers rather than lumping one great big training altogether. Now, if your dog's arousal level spikes, then just remove them and go back to the kitchen. All that's telling you is that you haven't done enough work at the previous stage. That's all it is. It's not a fail, and it's not that your dog isn't going to achieve what you want them to achieve. Now, stage 4. Now, again, bear in mind this could take you a few days for each of these stages. So your dog is going to be off lead, but he's going to be wearing a harness. You're going to keep him on lead to start with, okay? And then we're going to take them off lead. Settle your visitors down and give them something to do. And obviously, they are not going to be interacting with your dog, okay? Bring the dog into the visitor's space, then remove the lead. Now, this is what you're looking for. Can the dog settle at your feet? Okay, that's the first thing. Can they just settle down and mind their own business? Can your visitor then make some movements? Maybe you might just want your visitors to raise their hands, and because that will push your dog's interest up. Your dog might then jump up and start getting interested in what the visitor's doing. Now, if they does that, that's fine. That just, again, it's just information. So you just need to go back a step. That's all it is. So you then will have your dog settled at your feet, and you will see how much your visitor can move around without your dog's interest. And what you're ultimately looking for is, can your visitor stand up and walk across the room without your dog deciding this is an event? Now, I quite often get asked questions about how dogs go ballistic when people leave. So you have a visitor, the dog calms down, and then the visitor gets up to leave, and then the dog starts barking and lunging at them again. Okay, so this is perfect for words resolving that behavior. Okay, so again, how much can your visitor move? And if you find that your dog really can't cope, then the movements might be tiny. They might just be lift your arm. They might be just be sit yourself up a bit. They might be slap your legs, because we all do that. We go, right. Okay, so it might be that. Whatever it is, just tiny little movements. And what we're looking for is your dog being able to stay on their bed, on their snuffle mat, or on their lick mat. Okay. Now, if your dog does stay on the bed and he ignores all of that, then that is brilliant. Reward that. Okay. Make sure you've got something available to reward that, and reward the bed and not the dog. We're not feeding to the dog's mouth. We're rewarding the bed, because that's where we want to build the value. Again, and that would be the same if you were boundary training. You don't reward the dog's mouth. You reward what it is the dog is sitting on, because that's where you want to shift the value. We want the value for your dog to be on the bed or on the mat or whatever they're sitting on, and not interacting with your visitor. Okay, so that's basically stage 4, and I kind of hope that makes sense. So stage 5, moving on to stage 5, is we are going to allow a little bit of interaction. Okay, so we're going to bring the dog, again, we'll go over this again, bring the dog into the visitor space, and we're going to park our dog, and we're going to have them on our lick mat to start with, and then we might get up and move the dog towards our visitor for some short, calm, and low level interaction with the visitor. Okay, now I'm in two minds about this, because personally, if a dog is sitting there minding their own business, I would encourage that. I wouldn't kind of interrupt that behavior and go, okay, go and say hello, because what we're looking for is about transfer of value. We want the dog to, if that's where they know the value is, we really want to encourage that. Okay, now that might feel mean, okay, because your visitors will be itching to say hello to your dog. It's always the same. Oh, I love dogs, dogs love me, all the rest of it. They're going to want to get involved. Okay, so sometimes you kind of feel a bit mean about that, but the thing to remember is, it's not about the visitor, it's about your dog. It's about the skills that you're growing for your dog, rather than what your visitor feels. Okay, and I know that feels a little bit mean. If you really can't cope with that, then a short little interaction, or maybe a little game or something, and then put your dog back into a calm place. Okay. Now, the exercise here is about, we don't want your dog to associate visitors with crazy. Okay. And this is what we're trying to achieve. If your visitors are going to be staying a long time, if you've got house guests, then they can play with the dog later. Once we've got over this initial meet and greet at the door or in the front room or wherever you're going to sit. Later on, they can go and play with the dog in a garden. They can go and play orientation games with the dog, whatever it is they want to do. Okay. So don't feel too bad about it. Okay. It's about growing value in the correct behavior for your dog rather than your visitor just being able to play with your dog. Now, it's really, really important to take your time. Okay. And we build this up in layers. Okay. And this is what shaping is. Now, quite often you will see training is and it's done in big lumps. Okay, your recalls are quite often done like that. So the dog will be somewhere over the field and they charge towards you, you feed. Okay, that is kind of a lumping behavior because the dog performs all sorts of things and then gets one reward at the end of it. Shaping is when we are just growing slices of the correct behavior and making sure our dog is rewarded at each stage. Okay. And it does take longer, but you will get a better behavior ultimately. So shaping takes place in slices, okay? And we are trying to shut down these rehearsed automatic behavior patterns that our dog has got, and we're trying to build new ones. And it cannot be done in one session. It's unlikely to be able to be done in a week. You're going to have to spread this out, and you're going to have to be super patient and work. Just, yeah, be super patient, really. Now, another thing you can do, again, if you're in Chihuahua school, you're going to be fairly familiar with this, is you can DMT the sound of the doorbell, but again, don't work in the situation. So get your phone, get a doorbell sound that's similar, and have it on a very low volume. So first of all, make sure you've built your DMT cue. DMT stands for distract, mark, treat. Okay, so distract is the event that you're trying to get your dog to disengage from. Mark is the word nice, and treat is the food. Okay, so you can add a stroke in there. I like to do that. Some trainers don't teach that, but it's up to you. So what you're trying to do is build a positive association with the word nice. Okay, now nice has to be nice. Okay, it's a long, calm word, and we're not going nice because that is arousal up. Okay, so we are going to go nice, stroke, feed. Okay, you can leave out the stroke if your dog doesn't like being touched. That would be very much Arlo. Arlo's not a massive fan of being handled. So what we're trying to do is build an association between the word nice and being calm. So it's really important that we don't do this when our dog is in a really high state of arousal. It's a calm behavior. So we are going to build this cue. So the word nice means, oh, okay, I don't need to worry about this. I can calm down a little bit here. And then we're going to introduce that to our doorbell. You can introduce DMT to all sorts of behaviors. So you're going to have your phone, you're going to have a doorbell on there on fairly low volume, and you're going to DMT them to the sound of that doorbell. So every time the doorbell plays on your phone, feed nice, or stroke, feed nice. Okay. Then as your dog gets more skilled, then you're going to turn the volume up. Okay. So then once you've kind of got a result there, again, you can see how we're building it in slices. Then you can actually start to get a visitor or a friend or a neighbor to use your real doorbell, and you can be DMTing them to the real doorbell. So DMT is a really good thing to do around this getting super excited whenever the doorbell rings. So what we're looking to do here is deprogram the doorbell as a crazy cue. Okay. Now, another thing you can do is build a cue and just send your dog to a kitchen, a mat, or a bed. Okay. Whenever the doorbell goes. Okay. That is boundary training again. So you can, and I did this quite successfully with a client's dog, is we had a lick mat, we stuck it to the side in the kitchen. And first of all, we had the dog just maybe a foot away from the lick mat. We let the dog go and we use our cue. I can't think what we did. Was it now? Let's just say it's ring. Okay. So we just hold the dog back because they don't speak English. It could be banana. It doesn't matter. So you have the dog there, maybe a couple of foot away from the lick mat, let them go. As they go to eat, you go ring. Okay. then you might pull them. And once that's fairly reliable, you pull them back a little bit more, lick mat over there, ring, and the dog goes to it. And eventually you could be in another room and you can go ring and the dog will go into the kitchen, whether there's a lick mat there or not. That's a good idea not to reduce the reward down too quickly. Otherwise they'll cotton onto that quite quickly. So it's a deprogram the doorbell as a cue. I don't think we've got any more slides after this. No. So another thing that I get asked a lot about is multiple dogs. Okay. Now I've got 5 Chihuahuas and it's not all dogs causing the problem. Okay. It's normally one dog that then sets the others off. In our case, it's always Mika. So Mika is the older dog and he's kind of like 13, 14 now. I know you can hear me, so I'm trying to keep quiet. Then there might be a little bit of dementia creeping in there, a little bit of his hearing might be going, and separation anxiety creeping in, which does happen as your dog gets older. When the doorbell goes, he will bark. And then what happens is that instantly fills the household bucket of all the dogs, especially Prince, because Prince loves Mika and all he wants to do is be Mika's friend. And Mika just keeps giving him the brush off. So every time Mika does something, Prince does it because it's like Mika did it, so I can do it. So if Mika starts barking, Prince will start barking, and then you get the Chihuahua feedback loop. So if you've got multiple dogs, identify which dog it is who's causing the problem first and work with them to start with. Okay. Start very slowly and just don't try and take on all the dogs in one go. Don't work with all the dogs as a group because you're not going to get the placement of reward in correctly. So work with each dog individually. Okay. Oh, okay. So let's just get rid of that. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions about this, then put them in the comments and I will respond to them once this live is over. Yeah, so I just hope you found that interesting. I hope there was value there for you. And email me if you need any more information. Chihuahua School has now been upgraded to our super new platform. We are really pleased with it. If you want more information about Chihuahua School, if you like the way we train, then please put a comment in there and I'll get some information to you about Chihuahua School when it next opens. And I would just love to help you with your Chihuahua's behavior. So bye-bye now from quite rainy Dorset. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye.